Hello there, this is my oral presentation on the impact of the Norwegian Resistance by Roy McDermott. Have you ever wondered what the impact of the resistance was in World War II? Well, Norway did not have a formalized military, so they formed a resistance group. My research was based on Norway because I have many ties to the country. Norway was most concerned about protecting their country, the monarchy, and the people of their primary source of heavy water. During World War II, Norway experienced traitors and occupation by Germany, so they formed a powerful resistance to protect their nation. The invasion and occupation by the Germans impacted Norway very greatly. While the Germans ended up not bombing Oslo, they did bomb other parts of Norway. One of the main reasons for invading the country was for deuterium oxide, also known as heavy water, which is vital for the production of the atomic bomb. There was a heavy water plant in the city known as Ryukin. The plant was fought after several times, but ended after the Americans bombed the plant on November 16th, 1943. Next, life in Norway during the occupation was very solemn. My grandmother Torn Sunday tells of the German soldiers were not mean, but the Nazi soldiers were. She says even the soldiers were nice and the Norwegians talked to them, but if they did, they would be known and labeled as sympathizers. Also, were traitors in Norway, and one famous traitor known as Vidkun Quisling was a very horrible man. Quisling was a Norwegian soldier that joined the Nazi regime, or regime. He also started a political party called the UN, or National Union. If you look up on the Webster Dictionary what Quisling means, it says traitor. After the war, Quisling was shot as a punishment for his crimes. The Norwegian resistance soldiers were comprised of civilians, students, and also teachers. They had tasks were developed and volunteers were recruited to help save the country. Norway's patriotism and dedication to the monarchy drove civilians to participate in areas they never could have considered. One of the articles I read, called by Jules' article on the Norwegian Civil Resistance, says of the Nazi occupation from 1940 to 1945, states, the growth of a spirit of the resistance during the summer of 1940 owed much to the courage of a few sighted men. Above all stood King Håkon, whose firm rejection of the call for his abductions dispelled much of the bewilderment and made it easier for Norwegians to decide where to make their stand. Also, another very important resistance movement against the Germans was the underground press. During the underground press, illegal papers were secretly passed around amongst civilians to communicate the resistance efforts and the German positions. Also, secret radios were shared so Norwegians could listen to BBC and Swedish channels to get updates on the war and who was winning. At one point, the Nazis confiscated over 470,000 radios from all the Norwegians in the country. Norway was also willing to sacrifice the safety to defend their nation. Another key player in the resistance was known as Ruben Lengmo. Ruben was 19 years old when he signed up for the resistance. My grandmother was Ruben's cousin, and she remembers great deals about him and Ruben's memories. One of them of April 9th, 1940, the day the Germans bombed Norway, it made Reuben so angry he wanted to enlist in the resistance to fight back. Initially, Reuben was too young to be in Norway's resistance, so he became a British M15 Special Ops executive. But during the war, he found out that he was on the top 10 most wanted list for the Germans. Eventually, he made it back to Norway and had many tasks as an operative. In the resistance, some of his tasks including manning a one-man submarine where he blew up the German ships and was also a hitman. During the war, he became the right-hand man of the commander Martin Linge of the Martin Linge Company operations. Also, the Norwegians participated where they could stand up for their country. Another quote by the Jules article talks about one of the tactics they used, called the ice front. Essentially isolated by German and Norwegian Nazis and Quisling followers from the good Norwegians, and allowed people to display their cold and hostile feelings for the Nazi and NS forces without putting themselves in any extreme danger. Other stunts included changing seats on a bus when Nazis came aboard. The Norwegians boycotted Nazi-owned businesses. They also refused to speak German to any of the Germans. They avoided contact with the Nazis and also gave them incorrect directions because they didn't want the Germans in their country. As the war ended, despite the horrific killing of a Jewish nation plus many others, Norway had suffered far less than many countries. Norway realized the Nazi regime preferred Nordic people, and the planes and bombings were less harsh for their country. The resistance was successfully in uniting a scared Norwegian nation. So one thing my grandmother says, or what she recalls, is, "I was 6 years old, and I remember the day they declared the war was over. The first thing everyone did was they went into their homes and got their flags, and then put them back out for all to see." She states Norwegians love their flags and they're very patriotic. Also, or lastly, the goal of the Norwegians' resistance was to prevent Nazism ideology from overtaking their country and culture. Today, Norway is a unified country, strong in their beliefs and proud of patriotism and the government. Also, Norwegians still have a fighting attitude and believe in democracy, individualism, and freedom of speech. Thank you.